Hi, everybody. I'm Mike. This is a bunch of Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are listening to The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards and fire up your fingers. Time to join the conversation.
Hey there, everybody. It is Friday, February 15th, 2019, and you are listening to The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second. We got a lot to talk about tonight, even some breaking news. Kind of throws my schedule all off, but that's okay because I am not required to go to work tonight, so we can stay as long as we want to. So that's a good thing. There are going to be some changes, first off, in how you guys can watch the show in the replays. I'm going to go ahead and starting with tonight's show, leave the do the live broadcast version here for the hour and a half, however long it takes, and leave that up for a day or two, and then I'm gonna take it down and upload smaller segments so you guys can watch what you want. You don't have to try to sit through the whole daggone thing on the replays. So we'll experiment with that. I'm still not sure what I'm going to do with the long form, whether or not to leave that up over on Gunstreamer and GunTube, or make that available to my patrons on Patreon. Not sure yet, but I'll figure it out and let you guys know. But anyhow, so that's why you're forced to see my ugly mug tonight. Is I want to give it at least a little bit of something to actually watch, which may be a mistake with this ugly face. But anyway, before we get into it tonight, I want to go ahead and welcome the panel. We got, as always, the cantankerous man himself, Squibload. How you doing, sir?
Oh, wow. I get to go first?
Yeah.
I feel special.
Well,
I noticed
you were here first, both on the panel and in the chat, so of course.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, thanks. Yeah, I noticed, too, in the chat I got a wrench, and I probably forgot that I get those all the time, too. So I feel special. Because feelings are important, right?
Just remember, use the power wisely. Don't go random banning people in
Oh, I'll be honest with you. I have no idea how to use a wrench. You've given me a tool that I don't know how to use.
Somehow I think that's pretty common, isn't it?
Well, I'm going to plead the fifth on that. I mean, I have an actual crescent wrench in my hand right now, but it doesn't work very well on the phone.
Yeah, Warsaw Patriot, we're going to be talking about that. That was the breaking news I referred to. So we're definitely going to be hitting that one tonight. Roll call, how you doing, sir?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here tonight.
Yeah, you sound like it. It sounds like if you were any more excited, you'd fall asleep, dude.
I might pull a gizzard. I don't know.
Modern Anti-Federalist in the house. How you doing, sir? Hello? You're muted, dude.
Oh no, sorry. Hey, I am here. I'm fired up. I'm angry over what happened today. I'm so fired up I can't even figure out how to unmute myself.
Well, we'll definitely talk about that. Maybe let you get some of the frustrations out of your system. David Bowling, the Kingpin himself. How you doing, sir?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. For those of you who may be new to the show, this is The Right of the People. The whole premise is that we go over the news in the Second Amendment world of once I can learn how to speak. We go over the news of current events that have happened in the Second Amendment world during this past week, and we talk about it in amongst ourselves here in the panel and with you in the chat. So feel free to chime in, ask questions, make suggestions. If I'm not on it, one of the guys in the panel will be, and they'll let me know. So, this is a conversation between all of us. Speaking of out in the chat, Squibload, as I said, was first. Zoro117 was second, which, by the way, I never did get an email from you, man. Otherwise, you would have got an invitation to this. Rich White's out there. Jason Stewart, welcome, welcome. John Brown Productions, Calaveras 32 Special, the Tactical Pickle himself. Rob D from New York. Let's see, Ozzy Osbourne. Wild Bill, that's a new one, so welcome to the show. I'm glad to see you. Hopefully you'll see something you like and stick around. Let's see who else we got. Warsaw Patriot, Locks, Rocks, and Whatnots. Hey, that's definitely a new one. So hopefully you'll stick around too. You know, I'm more the merrier, and I hope to catch some new folks here tonight. Seven Wonders, how you doing, sir? Let's see where else. Jason Stewart, Kingpin. Okay, that's pretty much everybody else. We try to keep it PG-13 around here at the most. So understand that my mods are pretty much on that, and we'll go from there. So the first thing we're going to talk about tonight is a while back, we talked about the Young versus Hawaii case, and that's a case where George Young in Hawaii had been requesting, which is absolutely horrible that he has to, been requesting permission from the state of Hawaii to have a concealed carry permit and has been denied over and over. The thing is, the state of Hawaii hasn't issued a concealed carry permit in about 10 years. They don't do it. And they also prohibit open carry. Well, in the Peruta versus San Diego case in California, the Ninth Circuit Court ruled that concealed carry was not protected under the Second Amendment. And which was odd because that case wasn't about concealed carry, but they made it about concealed carry. Anyhow, when the Young case made it to the Ninth Circuit, a 3-judge panel ruled that since concealed carry was not protected under the Second Amendment, open carry was, and that Hawaii had to allow open carry. Well, as you can imagine, the state of Hawaii stuck to their guns and they appealed that, and now it's going to be heard before an en banc panel. This is from Reuters by Jonathan Stemple. U.S. Appeals Court to revisit open carrying of guns. A federal appeals court has decided to reconsider its recent decision that the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution protects the right to openly carry guns in self-defense. In an order on Friday, the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals said it will revisit whether Hawaii acted lawfully in denying the plaintiff, George Young, a permit to openly carry a loaded gun in public. Circuit Judge Darmoud, and I'm sorry for butchering that, Darmoud Scanlon wrote for a 2-to-1 majority last July 24th that we do not take lightly the problem of gun violence, which the state of Hawaii has understandably sought to fight, but that the state nevertheless violated Young's rights. The dissenting judge, Richard Clifton, said the Second Amendment was mainly concerned with protection of hearth and home, and that disagreement among appeals courts about its reach meant the U.S. Supreme Court might need to weigh in. Friday's order means an 11-judge appeals court panel will rehear the case. A hearing has yet to be scheduled. Excuse me. The Ninth Circuit has jurisdiction over 9 western U.S. states, including California. It is widely viewed as one of the more liberal federal appeals courts. The composition of the Supreme Court has changed, and it means the Ninth Circuit will have to be very careful in evaluating the merits of Mr. Young's case, Alan Beck, a lawyer for Young, said in a phone interview. My client has made it clear he wants to keep fighting as long as it takes. Hawaii officials did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The July 24th decision came 2 years after another full Ninth Circuit panel found no right to carry concealed guns in public, overturning a ruling also written by O'Scanlan. Last month, the Supreme Court said it would review a New York City law imposing strict limits on the ability of handgun owners to transport their guns outside their homes. A ruling, which might not come until 2020, would be the court's first in a Second Amendment case in roughly a decade. It would also be the first since Justice Brett Kavanaugh joined the court in October, likely bolstering its 5-member conservative wing. The case is Young versus Hawaii, 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, number 12-00336. What I think is going to happen, and I would bet pretty much everything I own, that the result of this 11-judge en banc panel is going to be that they're going to overturn the present decision in which the lower panel, the 3-judge panel, said that open carry was then if you're not going to allow concealed carry, you have to allow open carry. That's going to be overturned. And my hope is that Mr. Young seeks and is granted cert before the Supreme Court, and they can finally rule on this, on the whole open carry, concealed carry. Is carry outside the home absolutely protected? Which I believe the McDonald case said it was. So this should be interesting. Now, there are people that have said, well, they didn't take the Peruta case, which the Supreme Court didn't. However, there were a couple differences between the Peruta case and the Young case. In Peruta, because California, and from what the common understanding is, they didn't take the Peruta case because California does, while it forbids open carry, it does allow concealed carry in some places. In California, you can get a concealed carry permit if you're in a gun-friendly county, because it's up to the local chief law enforcement officer whether or not you get it. So that's why they denied cert in the Peruta case. But with this one, you can't open carry unless you're engaged in the business of life protection, as they phrase it, a security guard, police officer, etc. And they don't issue concealed carry permits ever. They haven't issued even one in the last 10 years. So we'll see how this goes. Thoughts, guys?
This, to me, is it's a fight worth it, definitely. I think it's a good battle. Glad that's going to the court, but for where it is, I'm not sure it's going to be a winnable one. The left coast, Hawaii, it's pretty unfriendly territory, but we have seen surprises out of there. So I think that instead of betting everything we own, I think we should actually just wait and see, because sometimes we get some interesting rulings.
I would be very surprised if they didn't overturn this.
I was under the impression that Hawaii is may issue. They just don't honor that.
Correct.
Not that they're shall issue, they're may issue.
Correct.
And if California is may issue and they use that before, then I don't know that this is going to go anywhere. Because they go, well, look, we are may issue. And,
yes, but they're may issue, but they don't issue, and that's the problem.
I know that, but what I'm saying is through the legal trickery of these lawyers and all these other people, they go, well, we on the books we're may issue. It doesn't matter whether they do it. You know what I mean? How underhanded some of these guys are.
Sure, they're going to try that. And they may even issue a permit somewhere between now and then just to try to deflate that argument.
Yeah, and that could be something, they release one, right, just to so sometimes you got to anticipate some of these things, how they'll flip something, they'll turn it on you. I would like to see them have open carry, permitless open carry out there, just so that they've got something. We'll see how it goes.
My prediction is bad news all the way around.
You think it'll get overturned and SCOTUS won't take it?
Well, I'm just talking about the courts for the en banc court that's going to see it now. Yeah, getting to the Supreme Court is where it's going to have to go, but I don't think that the court that's going to have it now, I think that they're going to say that you can't have a gun outside your house.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, period.
It's the Ninth Circus. They're going to overturn it. I don't think there's any question on that. The question becomes, will the Supreme Court hear it? And that's what I'm hoping happens, because we also, another thing to consider with the difference between this and the Peruta case is the court's different now. We have some different justices on it, and they may decide to take it. They may be wanting to take some more Second Amendment cases. Alan Gottlieb from the Second Amendment Foundation said on Armed American Radio not too long ago that he thinks the floodgates are about to open with regard to Second Amendment cases with the Supreme Court. So, and he's pretty dialed into this kind of thing. So I'm hoping he's right. Warsaw Patriot says it's getting out of hand. Yes, it is. It's been getting out of hand, and it's getting even more out of hand. And if you think that it isn't going to get even more out of hand as this the next presidential election ramps up, you're crazy. Because I just heard yesterday that old Michael Bloomberg is going to devote at least, mind you, $500 million to either his presidential bid, or just to try to defeat Trump. And not that Trump is the most Second Amendment friendly guy out there, because we all know he isn't. However, a President Trump's second term would be a hell of a lot more preferable to a Michael Bloomberg or Kamala Harris or Cory Booker or Elizabeth Warren or Michelle Obama first term. So,
when you say that dollar amount, you need to take your pinky and put it next to your mouth.
$500 million.
Much better.
This guy probably does have sharks with frickin' lasers on their heads in his evil overlord lair. Poor conservative says he doesn't trust SCOTUS any more than he does the Ninth Circuit. Yeah, I have hopes. I have hopes with the new court. And maybe by the time that this case rolls around, we'll have another justice, because Ruth Bader Ginsburg has not been seen in public for a long time. I'm thinking that she may not be on the court much longer. You know, hopefully she just retires and it isn't a vacancy due to her death. But nevertheless, I think she was going to be vacant shortly. I think.
I'm sorry, Dick. She was there today.
She was there today?
I think I heard that. I can only hear the radio playing in the background today.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that she reported for work, or whatever they call it, today.
Well, good for her. Good for her. As I told you guys in the pre-chat, I work midnight, so I slept till about 6 o'clock today, so Eastern. So I'm not up on current events too much. But speaking of current events of today, for those who, like me, slept the day away and may not know, there was another mass shooting today, this time in Illinois. Happened this afternoon. This is a piece from the New York Times by Julie Bosman, or Bozeman, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Bosman, and Mitch Smith. Says, Aurora shooting updates, 5 dead and several others wounded. Aurora, Illinois. A gunman opened fire inside an industrial complex in suburban Chicago on Friday afternoon, leaving 5 people dead and injuring others, including 5 police officers. Scores of law enforcement authorities swarmed Aurora, Illinois, west of Chicago, and schools were forced to keep students inside. After a tense period of waiting, as officers from departments all over the region gathered near the complex, the Aurora Police Department said the gunman died after police shot him. Well, you know, normally I don't revel in someone's death, but good. Let's see. Let me get the full article. I hate that when they'll give you a teaser and then make you click for the full thing. Just give me the full thing. Giggity. Several area hospitals were receiving the injured, the authorities said, though it was not clear how many people were hurt in all. One hospital, Rush Copley, said it was treating 3 patients for non-life-threatening injuries. Advocate Good Samaritan Hospital said it was treating 1 patient from the shooting, and Advocate Lutheran General Hospital said it was treating another. President's Mercy Medical Center in Aurora received 3 patients, a spokesman said. 2 of them were being treated, and the third was transferred by helicopter to another hospital. Their conditions were not known. Numerous fire trucks, ambulances, and police squad cars filled a neighborhood of houses and warehouses in Aurora, a city of 200,000 residents, about 40 miles west of downtown Chicago. Many waited outside a large brown industrial facility. Jeff Probst, who was in the building at the time of the shooting, told ABC7 Chicago he recognized the gunman as a co-worker at the Henry Pratt Company, a company founded in 1901 which designs valves and control devices used in water and power systems. He said he saw the gunman running down the aisle with a pistol that had a green laser attached to it. He saw one person who was shot and was bleeding pretty bad. He believed there were others who had been shot in the office. He said he and another coworker ran out the back door, and he heard more shots once he was outside. The Henry Pratt Company's website says the company's headquarters is in Aurora and that it also has manufacturing facilities in Washington State and Indiana. Company officials did not immediately respond to inquiries. Local schools ordered students to shelter in place for more than an hour. The lockdown was lifted after the gunman was in custody, officials said. Still, officers could be seen searching through the area in small clusters as the investigation continued. And here comes the expected. By late afternoon, political leaders began issuing news releases and posting messages on social media offering sympathy and support. The White House said that President Trump has been briefed on the situation and was monitoring it. Let's see, where's the others? I'm really shocked that Dick Durbin's tweet was limited to sympathy. I'm quite surprised he hasn't called for immediate gun control. I'm sure they are already, though. I would be very surprised if the usual suspects aren't already pounding their pulpits calling for gun control. They usually do before the bodies are even picked up and the blood's cleaned up. They're doing it. So can anybody tell me if that's the case? I'm pretty sure they are.
I'll venture a wild guess and say that my prediction for the future is your lasers attached to your pistols have just become machine guns.
Yeah, that's not really too far-fetched.
So actually, so I was watching a live stream for several hours since I got home. About it's like 7:30 now. I got home about 4:20, so 3 hours ago, and they kept hammering home that this guy had a green laser, some sort of green laser attached to his firearm, and they're like, and they were then trying to say that this guy must have been at least knowledgeable or proficient in firearms because he knew to tactically put on a laser. And I kind of laughed to myself a bit because I think visible lasers are about one of the stupidest attachments you could ever put on a gun.
No. You're not looking at it from their point of view. They don't realize that lasers have been around for decades.
Sure.
They don't realize that some of them come built into the gun. You can buy it as an option when if you get that particular model, and that how they're used, why they're used. They know the movie version of the lasers, right? Yes. We're not the Predator. So you gotta stop and don't think like a gun guy. You gotta think like a moron in the media who doesn't take the time to go, how does this work? So in their minds, this guy is some sort of tactical genius because he used this laser, like the ones we see in all the action movies. You gotta dumb it down. I know it might make your stomach twist and turn, but if you want to get in their head, you've got to dumb it down to the point where you're ready to puke.
No, man, dude, I get it. I'm with you. No, I see it, and that's actually kind of what I was building to. Is they're just going to use that to now go after attachments like that, which obviously have a legitimate use, but it's still just the stupidity you pointed out. Yeah,
there goes your O light, because then it'll be lights too, right?
Oh, you bet.
My request is, don't let this become the bump stock. And I know we're all just projecting right now, but I mean, I think that all of us are kind of smart enough to be able to have a well thought out projection. And if they're going to keep pushing about this laser, just like Squib said, they think that laser, whatever it's pointing at, the bullet's going to travel all around corners and over the hill and through the door and hit you right there because the laser was touching you. But if you don't like the lasers, do everyone else a favor and keep quiet about it. Because if a whole bunch of people call, oh, that stupid piece of plastic, throw that in a pile with the bump stock, I don't care about that. Then a week after they ban it, come back on, no, they shouldn't have took my lasers. Don't take.
You know what, though?
Or if the ATF asks people to write letters or send in emails, send in something that sounds reasonable. Don't send in a bunch of stuff where you're swearing or you're deflecting or there were lots of people on the we don't want to lose this thing side that wrote really, really, really poorly.
You know what, though?
I can tell you, you're looking at this wrong as far as how the lasers would get banned. It wouldn't go through the ATF. It would actually go through the FDA. As someone who's used plenty of lasers, if you look at infrared lasers, for instance, they outlawed the full power IR lasers, and so civilians can only get a lower power version, which is actually still powerful enough. But so you would actually see that regulation come through the FDA, where they would just ban lasers for human use or civilian use altogether.
Another thing to think about too is, you always hear about the kids pointing the lasers at the airplane, and it's going to make an airplane crash. Wait till one of these yahoos come out and say that you can shoot down an airplane with a gun because it's got a laser.
Like James Bond did.
It's that. I mean, please, if anything, just don't do nothing.
Hey, listen, I don't use lasers. I don't have lasers, so I don't care about lasers.
There you go. Well, I'll see you next week.
That's what we're going to hear.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, by the way, when they get to your bolt-action rifles and your shotguns, then you'll fucking care.
Hey, Night Strike.
Language, dude, language.
Are you feeling like
I'm actually trying to keep it PG-13, dude.
Okay, I'm sorry for the code 102. It's just after I saw what Pelosi said today, the war's coming. Today? President Trump declared a national emergency.
Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about that. Matter of fact, I'll go ahead and segue right into that because that was my next.
What she said, if she thinks that she's going to get a Democratic president the next term, if that happens, if they try that, we're going to have a civil war on your hands. Whether you believe it or not.
I've been talking about.
No, you won't. Night Strike. They did it in Pennsylvania, and they're not in the streets rioting.
I've been talking about this ever since the Trumpster decided that he was going to float this idea out there, saying it's a bad idea. For those of you that don't know, Trump says, and for all I know, may have done already today, that he's going to sign the executive order issuing a national emergency on the border and other in order to get the funding to build the wall. And I've been saying that that's a horrible idea because, say, a President Bloomberg or Booker or Harris or Warren could decide that gun violence was a national emergency and they needed to do something about it. Well, yesterday, Pelosi said this. Nancy Pelosi, this is by Tucker Higgins from CNBC. Nancy Pelosi warns GOP that a Democratic president could declare gun violence a national emergency. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi warns Republicans on Thursday that a future Democratic president could declare gun violence a national emergency. Her comments
set for gun confiscation.
Her comments to reporters came shortly after the White House said President Donald Trump would declare a national emergency in order to build the wall, protect the border, and secure our great country. Pelosi said that she was not advocating for Democrats to declare a national emergency, but that Trump was establishing a precedent that should at least make Republicans nervous. And I'm this kills part of my soul to say it, but I agree with her. Yeah. If the president can declare an emergency on something that he has created as an emergency, an illusion that he wants to convey, just think about what a president with different values can present to the American people, Pelosi said. And she's right.
100%.
If the president can, let's see, you want to talk about a national emergency? Let's talk about today, Pelosi said, referring to the first anniversary of the school shooting in Parkland, Florida, that left 17 dead on February 14th, 2018. She said the shooting was another manifestation of the epidemic of gun violence in America. That's a national emergency. But why don't you declare it an emergency, Mr. President? I wish you would, she said. But a Democratic president can do that. A Democratic president can declare emergencies as well. Senator Kamala Harris, who is running for president, echoed her fellow Californians' remarks in a post on Twitter, but stopped short of saying that she would, as president, declare a national emergency. Declaring a national emergency over this president's vanity project is ridiculous, Harris wrote. We don't need a wall. Instead, we should address the actual emergencies facing our country, everything from gun violence to the opioid crisis. Senator Elizabeth Warren, another 2020 contender, wrote on Twitter that gun violence, climate change, and the country's opioid epidemic were all emergencies. Donald Trump's ridiculous wall is not an emergency, the Massachusetts Democrat wrote. A national emergency declaration makes powers available to the that are otherwise impermissible, such as the reallocation of certain funds that have been appropriated by Congress. Scholars continue to debate the legality of emergency powers. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders downplayed the possible ramifications of Trump's expected national emergency declaration. Let's hope we don't have additional security and humanitarian crises, she said. Now, I've been saying this every social media post I've found about Trump, declare the emergency, let's build the wall, yay, woo! Because this is short-sighted, immediate gratification stupidity. You know, you do not want to set a precedent granting a president more powers like this while your guy, quote unquote, is in office, while it's something you agree with, because sure as the sun's going to rise in the east, the next time someone that you disagree with
is
going to get in office, they're going to do some crap that you don't want. It's going to happen.
So last month when I went to Pittsburgh to the 2A rally, I was going to open carry because I believe in doing that. If it's legal where the rally is, I think it shows people, look, here I am, I'm armed, and I'm no danger to you. However, because the governor of Pennsylvania, who is more or less, the governor is in the same position as the president, just on a state level, declared a state emergency because of the opioid crisis in Pennsylvania, I couldn't transport my firearm into or through the state. I could walk down the street of Pittsburgh with it strapped to my hip. I just couldn't get it to Pittsburgh legally. If I had been in a car accident or been pulled over for a traffic stop or something like that, and for some reason or other, they decided to search my vehicle and they found a locked cased firearm with the ammunition separate or not even present, I would have been arrested.
Despite the Firearms Owners Protection Act.
Despite the Firearms Owners Protection Act, and despite the fact that they said you can't transport it in the state, in your vehicle, under any circumstance, but you can walk down the street with it. So what am I supposed to do? Stop at Ohio and then walk all the way to Pittsburgh with this thing on my hip, right? But
Yeah,
that's an example of how an executive used their emergency powers, abused their emergency powers.
You got away with it.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Pennsylvania last weekend at the outdoor show, and I called a couple of the police departments before I went up there, and of course I couldn't get a hold of anybody, so I did a bunch of internet searches. And Squib's right, like the laws in Pennsylvania as far as open carry, especially for non-residents, it's pretty hard to understand. And then when I was in Pennsylvania, I talked to probably, I think it was 4 different police officers, and all of them said the same thing, that you can open carry, but we don't recommend it because somebody's going to call the cops on you. And then when we show up, we're going to give you a hard time about it.
Open carry is allowed in Pennsylvania by residents and non-residents because there's no law against it. Excuse me.
And like Squib said, you can't drive with your car. It's got to be locked in your car and all that. So you can only, I would have only been able to wear it from the parking lot to the front door and then back because the Great Outdoor Show wasn't going to let me in with a gun either.
Well, what happened is because open carry by residents and non-residents is allowed, you would think it's not a big deal. It's no problem. The way the governor worded his emergency order is that you cannot transport a firearm in a vehicle, whether it's cased, locked, separated from the ammunition, nothing, period, unless you have a concealed carry permit that is recognized by the state of Pennsylvania. It's like, wait, what? Hold it. I'm just transporting it. What does a concealed pistol license have to do with any of that? It doesn't. But what he did was, in order to placate people, probably, said, well, if you got this piece of paper, you can do it. Now, I let mine lapse in Michigan. If I hadn't let it lapse, yeah, I could have driven with it in the car and then open or concealed carried it right down the street of Pittsburgh, and I would have been fine. So I wasn't really too happy about that. And what I need to do is my due diligence and just go and get another permit. And it just hasn't been on my radar because I mostly open carry. But still, regardless of a permit or not, he abused his powers. But if you go, like what David was saying, if you go online and you start researching it and you read the law, you go, I'm good. And then you start looking at some of these other websites from the police or from the governor's office or whatever it is, and you're going, oh, I'm not. Or if you go into the Pennsylvania firearms owner website and you start reading it, you go, oh, we're good. And then you read another page, oh, I'm not. And it's like, well, what the hell? Am I coming or going? And that's what could end up happening on a national level.
Well, you know,
if they declared an emergency, you might be able to just keep your guns at your home. Or you might only be able to take your gun to the gun range if you have a concealed carry permit. Well, what if your state doesn't issue a concealed carry permit?
There's a part of me that says, you know, my cynical side says that they make these laws deliberately confusing. And maybe I should be wearing a tinfoil hat instead of this nice red and black ball cap. Maybe I should, but I don't know. But anyhow, there's a part of me that says that they deliberately make these laws confusing in order to trip people up so that they can make them felons and remove their gun rights. I mean, there's a part of me that says that. Now, I don't know how big a part that is, but, you know, sure what it seems like. But at any rate, you know, that's how this works on a micro level with the state. If you don't think that could work on the macro level with the nation, once Trump has set this precedent, if you don't, because as anti-gun as Bloomberg is, if he becomes president, do you really think he's not going to go, well, Trump did it, so hell, gun violence is a national emergency, no more 30-round magazines, no more semi-automatic rifles, turn them all in, folks. If you don't think that's going to happen, you're deluded, because he absolutely will do it.
Well, you also haven't listened to anything.
Ideologue and what's worse is he's an entitled ideologue who has all the money he could ever want, more money than he could ever spend. Just think about this. That $500 million that he's planning to spend, at least, because I was listening to Armed American Radio the other day, and Mark Walters was talking about how Bloomberg's campaign manager said that that'll get him through the first few months of a presidential bid. Mm-hmm. So that at least $500 million is only 1% of his total wealth. Bloomberg can bury this with money, and probably will. So if you don't think he has an opportunity to do what he wants with a stroke of a pen, you don't think he'll take it? Crazy. You don't become worth $50 billion by not being ruthless.
Right?
It'll happen. And that's already saying it's a bad idea.
They're already saying it on quote unquote our side. Well, Barack Obama declared emergencies. George Bush declared. They're already doing it. So it's not like it's not going to happen.
Yeah, but not over some crap like this. And even in the Obama era, politics were different.
I'm just saying that's what they're going to use. They're going to use he did it. Well, sure. He did it.
Sure. But it's still some short-sighted crap, because it's coming. They're telling us it's coming.
And the rank and file Republican Congress critter is Republican congressman might as well be synonymous with coward. They will not fight it. They will not do anything. They will roll over. They do not care.
Yeah, absolutely. They have the only way that the Republicans are your friend on this is if you continue to put pressure on them. That's why I leave every show with, you know, the whole spiel about contacting your Congress critters, because you have to do it. You have to tell them, you have to keep the pressure on them, even if they have an R behind their name, in order to make them understand that there will be electoral consequences for not standing firm on this issue. It's just horrible.
Like, I hate to say it, but one thing that you have to give the Democrats respect for is they will fight. They love a fight, and they will fight in the nastiest, dirtiest ways possible.
They're relentless.
And we are the ones who suffer for it, even as voters. Like, I mean, think about it. I see Republicans out there, like, or conservatives just in general. There's a lot of libertarians out there that when it comes to actually expressing even just their ideas in public, they won't do it. Whereas if you go to the bar, you go to the restaurant, and you'll find a liberal like in the Moonbat, and they are just going to sit there and preach to you and berate you. You can't even go out in public without hearing anything.
Yeah, see, the Democrats are relentless, and they don't care whether or not they're nice. As a matter of fact, they seem to be more effective when they aren't. And I think that was one thing that everybody liked about Donald Trump during his campaign, was that he seemed to be cut from that same cloth. He seemed to be someone that was going to go ahead and fight and strike back at him. And I mean, he always did. Anytime they attacked him, he attacked them right back, and he still does. And I think that's what people like about him. We're tired of these milquetoast, weak-kneed, who, oh, okay, well, yeah, you're right, who cave on everything and don't fight for anything. And that's that's why Trump got elected, because he was someone that we saw who was going to fight for what he believed in. And as it is, I mean, he is. I mean, look, he's going down dirty, and well, if you guys aren't going to do it that way, the right way, we'll go ahead and do it my way. I don't care. Just unfortunately, he isn't that way about the Second Amendment either.
The problem that I see is, at least in my view, this was never about Trump in the first place. I didn't care about Donald Trump before he was president. I didn't care about him while he was running for president. I cared about you guys and my neighbors and my family. And Donald Trump was doing, like you said, he was sticking his thumb in people's eye every single day. And he was the underdog. He was the one that nobody liked, and he was saying the stuff. This was never about Trump. Now that, and everybody's just made it about Trump. Screw what Trump, and let him know. That's where I think a lot of people have failed, is when he screwed up, it was make excuses for him. And I'm not saying us, I'm just saying in general. You see it all over the place, the excuse. Let him know, hey buddy, this ain't about you either. This is about me. You're the president because I said so. You can go back to New York and run through the gutter that you used to run through with Hillary Clinton, just like all the rest of them. And I don't know. These politicians are all the same, and Donald Trump thinks this is about him. And he said it in his rallies, and he called himself the other day. He kept saying, I did this, and I built this, and I built it. And then he finally stopped and said, well, I didn't do any of it. You guys did. And that's one of the very few times he's turned to the crowd and said, this is you guys. And that's what he needs to understand, is this is us. We are the president right now. And as long as we let Donald Trump be the president, I hope that makes sense. I hope it makes sense what I'm saying. But this is about us, not about Donald Trump.
Yeah. I hope, and that's how it should be. But speaking about relentlessness of the Democrats, this is a piece by Associated Press from the 14th, yesterday. House panel backs bill expanding gun sale background checks. A key House committee approved a bill Wednesday to require background checks for all sales and transfers of firearms, a first step by majority Democrats to tighten gun laws after 8 years of Republican rule. Yeah, Foos, I'll go ahead and put a link over in the Gun Channels chat. Once I can get it up. The Gun Channels chat. That doesn't seem to be wanting to come up for me.
I could just send him a link.
Yeah, could you? That would be great. Anyhow, where was I? After 8 years of Republican rule, the House Judiciary Committee voted in favor of the bill 23-15, sending it to the House floor. If approved by the full House, the bill would be the most significant gun control legislation approved by either chamber of Congress in at least a decade. Democrats have pledged additional gun legislation, including restrictions on high-capacity magazines and a measure to allow temporary removal of guns from people deemed an imminent risk to themselves or others. Judiciary Chairman Gerald Nadler, Democrat, New York, called the background checks bill long overdue to address a national crisis on gun violence that claimed nearly 40,000 lives in 2017. Our country is awash in guns, and we have the shameful death toll to show for it, he said. The vote on the bill came after a contentious day-long hearing in which Republicans offered a series of amendments, all of which were blocked by Democrats. Republicans said they were ready to offer additional amendments when Nadler shut off debate around 8 p.m., 10 hours after the hearing began. Representative Doug Collins of Georgia, the panel's senior Republican, called Nadler's action disturbing and said it did not bode well for the 2-year congressional session. If this is the way the chairman wants to begin this session of Congress, I really wonder where we go from here and whether the two parties can work together, Collins said. But Democrats said Republicans were delaying a vote on the bill because they oppose universal background checks for gun purchases. This isn't a debate, it's a show, said Representative Val Demings, Democrat, Florida. She called universal background checks for all gun sales common sense and said, let's move forward. As if to demonstrate her point, freshman Representative Greg Stoiber? I don't know how the hell S-T-E-U-B-E, Republican, Florida, displayed a large cup that read... Stube? Thank you. Displayed a large cup that read, "The Second Amendment is my gun permit." Stube was among several Republicans who tried unsuccessfully to amend the bill. Fellow freshman Representative Madeline Dean, Democrat, Pennsylvania, said lawmakers know background checks work, that they save lives, and yet we need to close loopholes that allow some private purchases and transfers to be made without background checks. Tell me, miss, what lives would have been saved by background checks on these recent mass shootings? Which one would they have stopped? Oh, wait, absolutely none, because every mass shooter in the past 10 years has passed the background check or stolen their guns. So absolutely zero have been stopped by these stinking background checks. Oh, I better calm down. I'm going to win that award again, and I don't want to. Instead of working with Democrats, Republicans are adding more loopholes, which is shameful, Dean said. Republicans pushed to allow exceptions for victims of domestic violence and transfers among family members, but were dismissed by Democrats. Representative Lucy McBath, Democrat, Georgia, a freshman whose son was killed by gun violence. No, I would say that her son was killed by another human being, said that she has been working on gun legislation since his death more than 6 years ago. As a survivor of gun violence myself, I refuse to let my colleagues stand here and devalue the importance that this bill has, she says. Wednesday's vote came a day before the 1-year anniversary of the high school shooting in Parkland, Florida, that killed 17 people. Representative Ted Deutsch, Democrat, Florida, said that while the bill can't bring back any of those killed in Parkland or other shootings, it will help reduce gun violence. If this legislation prevents one person wishing to do harm to others with a gun from doing that, it will be something that we can be proud of. The problem is, old Ted, that it doesn't. Background checks do absolutely nothing to deter crime. They do absolutely nothing to deter a killer. They do absolutely nothing to affect murder rates. Nothing. Then they won't save one life. As a matter of fact, 200,000, 250,000, up to 2.5 million times a year, guns are used to save lives. So if saving lives is your metric, do the math, buddy. Numbers don't lie. The only thing that universal background checks are is a stepping stone towards universal registration, which, as we see in this case in California, where the gentleman bought his 80% lowers, completed his 80% lowers, and then, as a law-abiding citizen, it registered his 80% lowers, got them confiscated immediately thereafter. Registration leads to confiscation, period.
I was taught something in my math class. There is statistics. There's statistics. There's
lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, and just one thing I really noted about this, and I'll tell you, this little bill right here, the little red flag law, is the great slippery slope towards this. If you have it, they will simply say, oh, well, this person wants to buy guns, or then clearly they are a crazy threat to society. They only want a gun to harm people. The only reason they want that AR-15 is so they can hunt down people and cause them harm. That's the only reason someone wants to have a gun.
Oh, Hogwash it's a good thing you said that. Hogwash recently said that if the only reason for an AR-15 is because you were hunting people. The Dems are already floating that balloon to see if it has any air.
The thing is, and this is solely my opinion, I could be wrong or not, but is starting to become from a state thing to a all state problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. The people that live in the states, like yours of Sparta, where it's been bad for a while and it's only getting worse, they kind of have one opinion. And the people that don't live in those states where they still have their freedoms have another opinion. And the people that live in the states that are oppressed feel like the people that live in the free states need to do something for them. The people that live in the free states blame the people that live in the states that are oppressed because they let it happen, and now it's spreading to their free state. We're fighting each other once again. It seems like every single time there's something that comes up, we find a way to fight it with, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say I don't ever fight. They only come back here when I'm talking. It's assholes. Anyhow, sorry about the language. Anyhow, the forklift drivers only come back here as soon as I unmute.
Forklift, come back.
Yeah, come back. Yeah, as soon as I mute, he'll leave. Anyhow, it seems that what goes on with so many different things regarding gun control divides our community, and we can't pool our resources. I don't think it's ever going to change. I think there's always going to be something that divides us so much that we can never, people can say there's 5 million people in the NRA or there's 80 million gun owners across the country or whatever their stupid numbers are, okay? None of that really matters if we all can't get on the same page for at least 5 minutes.
No, and that's the truth. The thing is of course there's some people in one state that don't have the freedom and they start, it's basically a blame game, like the kid with the toy that's blaming the other kid because he has a newer toy and you have an older toy.
We were listening to it on Mr. Knives' lobby the other day when they were having the House meeting about gun control and all that kind of stuff. And Sheila Jackson Lee, I think that's her name. I can't remember what her name is right now. But she came out with all kinds of statistics about background checks. And she was coming up with 3 million background checks came up denied. So that proves that there's 3 million people that we prevented from getting guns. So they have that argument against us. But the problem with that argument is there's nobody able to say, well, what are those regulations? Did you stop somebody who got too many speeding tickets and didn't pay his fines?
Did you stop somebody whose name was John Smith and they didn't want to put down their social security number, right?
Well, no,
I mean, there are other ways you can.
That. I'm just talking about regular old me. I'm driving down the road because I got a lead foot and I rack up a bunch of speeding tickets and the cops take my license and, I get in a whole bunch of trouble. Or, you get a weed charge back when you were in high school or something like that. And then you stop. So all of a sudden you just stopped a dangerous person. That's the way they angle it. Is every time a background check comes back denied, we just stopped a dangerous person from getting a gun, which is nonsense.
Right, but some of those numbers are administrative failures where they've had some sort of an issue, or somebody's got the same name, or you got the person
the headline doesn't care about
he is not going to give up, or she is not going to give up their social security number.
So I was listening to the last 45 minutes to an hour of that, and something that they're bringing up is like, we got to stop this loophole of FFLs or gun licensees selling guns without background checks or positive background checks.
Did they really say that?
Yes, it was because if me as an FFL, let's say one of you guys someone in Arkansas comes in and they get a delayed, and in 3 days I don't get an answer, I can sell them that gun. Yeah. And they said that is a loophole. No, that is the law.
Exactly.
And and I was typing feverishly in the comments. I was like, okay, that's the law, and it's up to the government to say this person is not, their background is not sufficient for it. If anything, they should say a no on that and have you go do it again.
They also said that at gun, they said that they have been to gun shows where there's private dealers with just as big a table and just as many guns as the licensed dealer, and they're selling all kinds of guns right there at the gun show at the tables.
But it's their personal property, so
Yeah, that happens, and it's absolutely 110% legal.
There's also laws that you can only sell a certain amount of firearms a year before you have to have an FFL.
Well, that may be a state thing, but that's not a federal.
Yeah, that's a state thing. That's
Federal,
a state thing.
I am an FFL holder.
Very well.
It is what it is. It is you cannot be in the business of. So if you buy something knowing from a private or an FFL, knowing you're going to flip it for money, you are in the business of.
Yeah, and they told me in Maryland.
But proving that is very difficult.
Yeah, they told me in Maryland that they deny me my FFL. Like, I just asked a bunch of questions before I actually applied, and they said if you're just trying to buy guns to have an easier way to get them for yourself, we're not going to give it to you. You have to prove that you're selling, and I'm not interested in doing that, so I'm not going to do the FFL.
And legally, as an FFL, if you buy a gun for yourself using your FFL, you have to own it for a year before you can make a private sale of it as a private owner. Now, you could since you bought it yourself, you could sell it through your store to somebody and do all the background checks and everything else. But if you're an FFL in a state where they don't have universal background checks, oh my goodness, this guy again, he's fired. I'm going to fire him. If you live in a state where they don't require universal background checks and you are an FFL, you have to hold on to that gun for a year as personal property before you can sell it without a background check. It just isn't worth the hassle.
So I didn't hear that, but for me, if I want to buy a gun, I'm going to keep it for a while. But yeah, I mean, mine, it's not directly to me, and my company has it. My LLC owns it. I'm just a part of the LLC to be able to do background checks and stuff for. But yeah, I mean, I haven't gotten the gun through it yet.
I think that forklift driver is tonight's unsung hero.
Oh man, I tell you what, now they got two of them back here.
But
all right.
If they're concerned that somebody who goes to all the trouble to get an FFL and keep an FFL is buying these guns for themselves and then turn around and selling them off the books as private property, nope, they're not. So you've got a lot more liability on you as an FFL.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is that they come to me like, let's say there's a red flag law. Let's say one of my neighbors does something, or my family does something for me for that red flag law. Of course, Arkansas doesn't have it, but I'm like, what? I've gone through background checks for my FFL. I've gone through already through all these background checks. If I'm deemed by the state to be unfit, they come grab it. I mean, it's not. I don't know. I don't know if it's a little bit more protection of that or not, but
more or less, the laws that are in place that have been in place are strict enough. If they want to tweak them a few things here or there, then maybe. But overall, I don't think they're aware of the laws that they're saying aren't out there.
Oh no, because you're like, a lot of stuff that they say, it's already the law. It's already illegal to buy something, a firearm for someone else if they're going to pay you for it. Gifting is perfectly legal, absolutely. But if I'm, let's say Gary Gizzard or something like that, or I buy a firearm here in Arkansas, knowing that Gary wants it, and I'm going to send it to him. The FFL has to do it. I can't do that as a person because that'd be a straw purchase. Even if I would purchase it from an individual, it's still a straw purchase.
You have to do that as an FFL, if at all.
Oh yeah, FFL. Oh yeah. If I want to, I could buy anything I want as the FFL to turn around and sell it because that's in the business of.
That's in the business, yeah.
Right. And that's through your own FFL, which is a lot more traceable, a lot more paperwork, and a lot more liability.
It's really not that much more paperwork. But yeah, I can do it.
Dude, I'd be getting writer's cramp, filling everything out in a bound book.
Well, see, I don't advertise mine all that much, so I haven't done a whole bunch of them, so I don't have that.
Hey, could you give me a Makarov?
Oh man,
could you sell me a Makarov?
Yeah.
Yeah, they both promised not to sell it to Travis.
I've already called. I've already called dibs on
Bill.
that particular Makarov. I've already talked to Foose about that.
So in the giveaway on Travis's channel, G-Webs made 2 of those Makarov patches. One had some errors in it, so I sent that to him as part of his giveaway. So he's going to be giving away a Makarov. Makarov patch, that is. But
That's funny.
Hey, patches rule though. Patches rule.
Well, we've been through all this crap news today from this week, but it's time for a little bit of good news.
Build the wall.
We've talked about how the jackbooted forces of gun grabbing are on the march. However, there is some pushback, at least somewhere, to try to regain some of their rights. Campus carry bill up for public hearing Monday by Jeff Jenkins in I didn't put the organization. Well, this is from somewhere in West Virginia anyway. Charleston, West Virginia. The House of Delegates Judiciary Committee will host a public hearing Monday afternoon at the state capitol in connection with a campus carry bill. House Bill 2519, called the Campus Self-Defense Act, would require colleges to allow those licensed to carry a concealed weapon to do so on campus and in campus buildings. The bill includes some exceptions from the requirement, including events in campus sports arenas with more than 1,500 seats, campus daycare centers, campus police headquarters, and private events. Some states that have campus carry allow firearms in residence halls. House Bill 2519 doesn't address the situation, but that may change, according to House Judiciary Chairman John Schott. Our bill is silent on that, but that's certainly an issue we will be developing. You know, you would think that they would automatically allow campus carry in a residence hall, seeing as that's where you live. That is your de facto home.
Right, but it's like a rental property, so it's. I understand that. I wish they would, but then again, you're renting, you're not owning.
Yeah, but it's still your residence, and
Yeah, you have rights as a renter.
yeah, exactly.
Right, but you don't have to rent. But that person that owns the property could basically tell you what to do, however they want.
No, they can't. They cannot tell you what you can and can't own.
No, but they can tell you what you can and can't have in the property.
Right. They could say no pets. They could say no firearms. They could say no,
I think
dangerous chemicals. They could say
locale dependent, because I'm pretty much sure here in Ohio they can't tell you can't have firearms in a rental.
Yeah.
I know there are places where that's specifically forbidden.
I remember the story from earlier like at the beginning of the fall or whatever, that college girl where her friends found her gun and she ended up having to move out. The landlord didn't have her back. I know at least around here that the tenant or the landlord of whatever kind of property you're going to go in, there's definitely a list of do's and don'ts and things you can and cannot have.
Wow, that is just messed up. At any rate, the public hearing is scheduled for 2 p.m. in the House chamber. I think if you're interested in local control or individual choice, you certainly ought to plan on attending that public hearing and monitoring the progress of that bill, Schott said. According to the bill, its purpose is to allow a person who holds a current and valid license to carry concealed deadly weapon to carry such a weapon on the campus and in the buildings of a state institution of higher education. It provides exceptions and immunity to an institution for a licensee's intentional or unintentional use of a firearm while carrying it under the act. The bill seeks to acknowledge that violence against disarmed, law-abiding citizens is an increasing but unnecessary occurrence. The bill is an attempt by the legislature to reaffirm a law-abiding citizen's Second Amendment right, the right to protect themselves by allowing legally licensed and permitted employees, staff, and students of public universities the right to legally carry a concealed weapon within specified limitations. Delegate Jim Butler, Republican, Mason, is the bill's chief sponsor. So good for you, West Virginia. If you happen to be listening to this and are a resident of West Virginia, I would encourage you to contact your elected representatives on the state level and tell them what you think about this bill.
That's our buddy Rich White.
So there you go, Rich. Tell them about it. Tell them.
Has anybody heard that Lindsey Graham and what's his name, Richard Blumenthal, have got a red flag bill in the Senate?
What?
Yes, I've already
Golden Graham is
contacted
turning
Lindsey
on
Graham about
us.
it, and I'm
Doggone
pissed.
it.
Would you say
Yeah.
Night Strike?
Mr. AR-15 has just turned on us. I've already called his office. I've left the message. I told him how unhappy I was, and that I didn't elect him to go and demonize legal firearm owners in his own damn state. And I'm not going to apologize for that one, Budget. That was warranted because he is my representative.
Damn is okay.
He is my representative, and he should be doing what I tell him to, not what he wants.
Absolutely.
Yes, he should do exactly what Night Strike says. No one else.
Exactly. Is that so wrong?
I could probably get behind that.
I don't know.
Everybody in South Carolina that was nice.
You're not necessarily the most level of people.
Okay, I'm not that eloquent. I'll give you that. But, quite honestly, I've got pretty good common sense, more so than some people.
Tell me that you guys wouldn't love it if you turned on C-SPAN or Fox or wherever you watch news and saw Lindsey Graham screaming from the mic, "Shall not be infringed."
That would be awesome.
Yeah, Lindsey Graham, not Night Strike.
Says that he doesn't like it that it states you need a permit when they're a constitutional carry state. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't. If you're a constitutional carry state, you should be able to carry anywhere in that state. You shouldn't have to have a permit to carry on campus. Rich, I would absolutely encourage you to contact your elected state representative and or Congress critter to let them know about that, as I'm sure you probably already have.
So is there anybody out there that would be willing to test out for and pay for a card that would make all gun control laws go away coast to coast, no matter where you are in the United States? Open carry, concealed carry, have a machine gun, have a suppressor, take it on campus, take it to the hospital. I don't have armor-piercing ammunition. What other? I don't mean have an unlimited round magazine, whatever it is. If they had some sort of, I don't know what it is, some sort of permit that you had to test for every so many years, and you had to pay a fee and pass a background check and all this. But as long as you had this card, they couldn't touch you. Would you be willing to pay for that?
No.
We already have that. And it reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's
okay, just wondering.
No, we shouldn't have to have a permit.
I'm not saying you shouldn't have to. I'm saying if it would just make everything go away forever.
Go away, dude.
Well,
yeah,
I mean, you can look at Maryland.
I see where you're going with this, Squib, and it would be very tempting. I have to admit.
It would have to also be a perfect situation, because that sounds like he's describing Maryland. Because if you want to shill out a whole bunch of money and you get a whole bunch of contacts, then you can get a carry permit here. But if you're, making sure you get to the bank on time to cash your paycheck.
No, I'm not just talking about being able to conceal carry. I'm talking about everything. No more 4473. No more NFA. No more nothing. No more nothing.
I thought you were just talking about the carry stuff. My bad.
No, I'm talking about you can do what the Second Amendment says, carte blanche, because you've paid for this card that you every so many years you renew your whatever you test out, you take your blood test and everything, whatever it is that they need, right? And just make it go away.
Yeah, Squib, that sounds real nice. And I'd be all for it on one condition.
What's the
condition? That is?
That it's not a registration.
Yeah, that would be something. It would be no registration. You don't need one permit for every gun you've got, and then it's just a link across the. I've got this card. You can't touch me.
That would be nice. That would be nice. But apparently that's only if you're in Congress or the Senate.
I would still say no.
Yeah, the very idea galls me.
Mm-hmm.
It bothers me too, but in his little, you know,
In the hypothetical,
exercise there,
it would be extremely tempting, I have to admit.
Yeah.
So if I submit to this background check and pay this fee, then gloves are off, anything goes.
Well, you also
It
have
would
to
be
consider
extremely tempting.
you have to consider how much it's going to cost as well, because if it's $1 million, you know, then it's pointless. If it's just, I would be happy to pay for it if it was, the only thing I was paying for was the time and effort and paperwork it took to do it. So the secretary that's filing the paperwork gets a paycheck. You know, the guy who I sit down to interview with earns a paycheck, but I don't want to give a whole bunch of politicians and bureaucrats and advertising and all that kind of crap my money and end up having to pay $50,000 for this license.
exactly.
I still wouldn't do it. Even if it was only like, let's say it was $500 every 10 years, I still wouldn't do it.
No, I wouldn't do that either. I'm talking about a one-time filing fee.
Even if it was $500. Even if it was $500,
even if it was $5.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I don't know that I would do
it. I still wouldn't do it.
It would be tempting, but I don't know that I would. I don't know that I could bring myself to it.
Like the only reason I have a concealed carry card in Arkansas is so I could go out of state and conceal carry in those states, be within the law. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have a concealed carry in Arkansas because it is legal to have one here. I mean, and carry and not have a license.
Yeah. Well, excuse me. I think we're going to go ahead and roll into the final segment. Roll call's favorite, the self-defense shout-outs. For those of you who have never stuck around to the end of the show or who are new, yeah, Warsaw, I sent it to the email you provided. I directly copied it right off the screen and plugged it in. And some reason that it just is not working. We'll talk later after the show and we'll get this squared away. Anyhow, for those of you who are new to the show or who've never stuck around to the end, self-defense shoutouts is not where I'm reveling in the death or injury of the bad guy. It is, in fact, where I'm reveling in the idea that the good guy had the means, method, and opportunity to defend themselves against someone who would harm them. You know, if the bad guy dies, well, you know, I'm not reveling in it, but it's a case of play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
You shouldn't have been a bad guy.
Yeah, you shouldn't have been a bad guy, right? This first is from Titusville, Florida. Titusville man who shot home intruders says they had his mom at gunpoint. 2 men shot and killed by a homeowner in a Titusville home invasion Thursday have been identified as Alvin Smalls and Amir Rashad Lynn, according to deputies. The Brevard County Sheriff's Office said Smalls, 20, of Titusville, and Lynn, 18, of Mims, broke into a home on West Court in Titusville and got into a fight with the residents. The 911 call from the victim revealed that he was asleep at the time of the break-in and was woken up by the intruders, who he said were holding his mother at gunpoint. They were trying to wake me up, he said in the call. They had my mom at gunpoint. I couldn't stop it. The victim told the 911 operator that the men had arrived to his home in their own vehicle. He said he shot both of them, killing the driver, Smalls, and injuring Lynn, who tried to leave on foot. One of them is dead, and the other one I shot once, he said. Smalls was found dead in the home, and Lynn collapsed outside, officials said. Lynn was taken to a hospital where he was pronounced dead, according to the deputies. The names of the victims have not been released. I'm glad that they have this phrased properly, with the victims being the people that had their home invaded and that were forced to defend themselves, and not putting the bad guys as the victims like so many newspaper articles do. So good for them. And finally, last but certainly not least, 1 dead in workplace shooting in Kingsport. Citizen who shot gunman hailed as hero by WCYB Digital Wednesday, February 13th, 2019. Kingsport, Tennessee. Sullivan County Sheriff Jeff Cassidy hailed the actions of a citizen who was legally carrying a weapon and shot a suspect in a domestic violence incident Wednesday at a Kingsport dentist office that left 1 person dead. Cassidy said that a woman who worked in the office of David A. Guy, DDS, was killed in the incident and that her husband was the shooter in the case. The suspect entered the office just after 9:30 a.m. when another person inside the office who has not been identified but was a concealed carry permit holder shot the suspect several times and kept the shooter at bay until officers arrived, the sheriff told News 5. So, there you have it. Who knows if this could have turned into something like happened in Aurora today, where the guy went on shooting people. If not for that concealed carry holder who had a weapon on him, had the ability to defend himself and others and prevent further harm. Had this thing in Aurora been under the same circumstances where there was another armed individual who could have immediately responded and put this guy down, there may have been less loss of life. We'll never know for sure, but we can absolutely say that the odds would have been better.
I've got it figured out, and I don't know why we didn't come up with this earlier. It's so simple. Invent the crystal ball, mass produce it, so everybody can predict the future when something bad is going to happen, and then we can be there to stop it from happening. And then we won't need all these crazy laws. So
hey, bring on the precogs, right?
Hey, Squib, you work at a factory. Stop producing plastic stuff and start making crystal balls right away.
So there you have it, folks. Another one in the record books. I, as always, am very gratified and happy that everybody decided to stop by and spend time with us this evening. Want to say thank you to everybody on the panel and give them a chance to give their parting words of wisdom, their plugs, anything that they want to leave us with. So, Squib, anything you would like to say, sir?
A bunch of stuff we talked about tonight, both on air and in the live chat, are things that I've done some Speaking Squibbish episodes on, and I haven't released them, and now I'm wondering if I should go back and re-record them or change things on it, or I'm not really sure. But I've had a lot of stuff actually come up lately that I've already either taken notes and written a script for, or actually made some rough voiceovers. And it's just kind of interesting how things that are going on lately have been just things on my mind, not because I was really aware that they were going on lately. It's just stuff I've wanted to talk about. So tonight's show kind of helped some. Thanks.
Well, glad to be of service. The one who strikes at night. Anything you would like to say, sir? Hold on one moment. For those of you who are new to the show or have never been in any panel with never watched any show where Night Strike is on the panel, if you are wearing headphones, you may wish to remove them or turn the volume down. Go ahead, Night Strike.
Shall not be infringed.
There you go. Shall not be infringed. That's the ultimate goal for all of us. When it comes to,
all I heard was
a bunch of people out there that are so sensitive to that, and that did not sound loud to me at all.
So the only thing I heard is I shall pee in fridge.
No, you heard. The only reason you heard that, Foos, is because you want to pee in front of someone's fridge. That's the only reason.
I swore I heard bye, Felicia.
I
heard cow not be on bridge. So there's no cow on the bridge.
You know what I heard?
Uh-oh.
I heard give him the bird.
I thought he was going to do it again.
I thought I was going to do it again, too. I took my headphones off.
Because bird is the word.
All right. Moving right along. Kingpin, anything you'd like to say? Any plugs you'd like to give, sir?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it as always. Love a good conversation. And make sure everybody like, share, and subscribe Budget Guns and Gears Reviews. And tune in every Friday for the Right of the People.
There you go. Thank you very much. And
check out Gizzard Gary's Foul Territory coming up.
Outstanding. You got to love that guy. He don't give a cluck.
Wow. It's almost as bad as peeing in a fridge.
It is, but that one
folks,
was pretty
just be glad you've only got to deal with budget one night a week.
That's right. I got a million dad jokes. Anyhow, last but certainly not least, Foos, anything you'd like to leave us with, sir?
No, not really. Dave,
Check
aren't
out
you doing
Sports Shooters
a
Ammunition?
sportshootersammunition at gmail.com? I'm going to be hooking up with Night Strike possibly tomorrow to start looking at website options. Yeah.
Cool.
I think David's he's going to be doing a
We'll call it a GunTube exclusive,
okay
featuring Sports Shooters Ammunition.
Yep, there's gonna be some ammo going to be given away.
You know, I've been getting a lot of GunTube exclusives lately. It's weird.
Good.
Hey, if we use it, it will grow. I've been saying that for a long time. If we funnel traffic there, it will grow.
That's what she said all the time.
That is
Come
what she
here
said.
for your exclusive video. I'm actually going to say it. Content. Oh.
Poor Squib. Poor Squibby.
All right. Well, as always, I want to thank everybody out there in the chat who stuck around and spent in an hour and 21 minutes listening to me babble on. As always, I am amazed and humbled and pleased that you've chosen to spend your time with us. You know, I want to leave it with check out GunTube. You know, it is a video platform that is for us, by us. Our own Night Strike here on the panel is the owner of it.
Wait, really? Why wasn't I informed? Why did no one tell me?
Okay. Well, yeah.
Wait. Haven't you been paying the bills?
I have been paying the bills. I'm just being facetious.
So you don't own it?
No, I own it. I own it.
No. According to Obama, government built that.
You didn't build that.
It's not about you. It's about the consumer.
According to me, Obama can say whatever the hell he likes, but it doesn't mean jack now.
That's right.
Oh, shit.
Also, go on over to Gun Channels. If you are not a gunchannels.com, if you're not a member over there, you should be. We are simulcast over there on Gun Channels. Gun Channels is sort of the water cooler of this internet Second Amendment community. You can always find something to talk about and someone to talk with 24/7, 365. It never shuts down, and it is absolutely free to join. You do not have to be a content creator. You can just be a content consumer and go over there and have a conversation anytime you want. As always, I'd like to close out by saying that, we have all this, as I said earlier, the jackbooted forces of firearms oppression are on the march, and we have to resist that. And the only way that we can resist that, and the only way that we can be sure that our so-called allies in the Republican Party will remain so, is to continue to keep their feet to the fire and put pressure on them. We have to call, write, email, snail mail, smoke signals, carrier pigeons, telephone, telegraph, semaphore, anything that we have to do to let our Congress critters and elected representatives know what we think and know what we want them to do. And so we should never, ever, ever give up the fight. See you guys later.